It's easy to work with great people, and it's easy to do good things when you're surrounded by good people. And I thank everybody in our industry. I'm very honored to be a part of a great workforce, and I will very, very much treasure this. Thank you very much.
I want to thank these guys. I think I don't need to say much more other than I think their words speak a lot about what they do for this industry. And I think we have a lot to be thankful for the team that Rhonda has put together, because I think this is really a great group of people, and the touches they get for the money they have is wonderful, and I think they do a wonderful job. So let's make sure we thank them. So our next presenter this morning is going to be Marty Shumway. Marty is going to be providing the Debrosse Memorial Report, which will be a review of the oil and gas activity in 2016, kind of a production report. Mr. Shumway is a licensed professional engineer. He's also a certified petroleum geologist. He's also a certified professional earth scientist. He is president of Shumway Resources, a consulting company who does engineering, geological, and geophysical services. He has a specialty in the Appalachian Basin, and recently he's accepted a position with Locust Bioenergy Solutions as a technical officer. Marty.
Thank you very much for coming to attend this wonderful event. I think this is probably the third or fourth time I've given this presentation of the Debrosse Memorial Report. There's a ton of information in here. I'm going to kind of go through this pretty fast, and this information will be posted on OOGA's website at the conclusion of the meeting. Please take a chance to look back. Like I said, there's a ton of information. I can't possibly hit, every possible thing in here. One little thing I'd like to mention before we get started. This data is assembled from publicly available data that's provided by ODNR. The data is only as good as what's there, and the summaries are only as good as the data that's provided by the operators. And so just keep that in mind as you're looking through these. Sometimes I get comments on people about, well, why weren't our wells in there and things like that, and just keep that in mind. It's a snapshot of activity. Basically taken from the database over the last week and assembled into some meaningful statistics. So I want to thank Bill Arnholt and Tim Knobloch from James Knobloch Petroleum Consultants, Tim, and Bill Arnholt from Northwood Energy for helping to put together some of this information. So today we'll talk briefly a general overview of Ohio oil and gas production, both historically and currently. Some summaries on permits and completions in 2016, and then some statistics about operator activity, footage drilled, number of wells, activity by county, quick look at some initial production numbers for mostly horizontal Utica wells, and then we'll talk a little bit about change of owners, production summary, and then briefly touch on a EUR summary for the Utica wells that we have. We have a pretty nice database of production starting to come together for Utica wells, and so we're able to talk a little more confidently about EURs. And then real quickly, we'll touch briefly on the UIC program, the Class 2 injection well summary for the state of Ohio. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to go pretty quick. We got a little shortened time here, but the oil and gas production in Ohio, you guys are all aware of the history. Over 275,000 wells have been drilled in Ohio since 1860. 50,000 producing wells in 49 of 88 Ohio counties. So a distribution of where the activity, mostly conventional activity, is. History of Ohio wells drilled by year and reservoir. This is a neat slide. It talks a little bit and shows the different bursts of activity. And if you see over there on the far left, the northwestern Ohio, the Lima, Indiana field was developed 1885 to 1900, produced over 500 million barrels of oil. And then we rolled into the Clinton play, the oily parts of the Clinton sandstone in central Ohio. And then the Morrow County play in central Ohio, again, just north of Columbus in the 60s. and then the tight sands gas play, and the Clinton Sandstone again, and then on and on. There's been a robust history, multiple formations, some new discoveries in the 90s with the Knox unconformity production, and now we're into the shale era in Ohio. So real quick, we'll talk 2016 permit and completion activity. Just some snaps. These photographs are courtesy of my friend Larry Wickstrom, who spends some time driving around and taking wonderful photographs. So he's allowed me to throw some of these into the presentation. 2011 to 2016. This is a kind of an overall summary of the permits, completions, and plugging permit activity in the state. Of note in this one, on the two right-hand columns is the change from 2015 to 2016. So we had a decrease of about 44% in the number of permits filed from 2015 to 2016, and a slight increase in completion reports filed, and a slight decrease in plugging permits. But overall, we had over a 50% decline in these three types of records that are filed with ODNR in 2016 versus 2015. Permits and completion by month. So the blue on here is the number of permits filed, the orange is the number of completions, and the gray is the number of plugging permits. So fairly steady through here as far as the amount of activity over 2016. Permitted formations. This is interesting. Historically, this would have been Clinton wells, would have been over 1,000 Clinton wells in recent years past. Today, we have 372 wells that were permitted as a Utica, as a TD formation, and 111 Trenton wells. Those are both Utica wells in there. So the Utica is over almost 500 wells permitted. And then looking at our conventional formations, 28 Clinton wells, about 20 Knox wells, 13 or so Berea wells, a few shale wells, and so on. But the Utica is the story in 2016. 2016, this is a map showing the location of these. The blue stars are the completion reports. There's 620 completions filed, 561 permits, and 439 plugging permits. So you see the plugging permits are scattered throughout the state, and there's a big concentration of completion reports in eastern Ohio there, which are the Utica wells. This is something to look at later, maybe online, but this is just a summary, a number summary by county. Number of completions, permits to drill, and permits to plug. Again, showing the increased activity in far eastern Ohio. So, number of operators completing wells by year. So this is from 2004 through 2016, and this is an idea of the number of operators that are currently active. In the 2007, 2008, 2009, there were almost 200 operators that were reporting completions, and that number since 2009 has continued to drop off. In 2016, we had 71 operators that reported completion activities in Ohio. Wells completed by type, so we broke these out into vertical wells and directional wells and horizontal wells. And so as you can see, 77% of all completions in the state of Ohio in 2016 were horizontal wells, 136 were vertical. So looking at completions by formation, in 2016, it looks like my legend is not displaying properly there, but you can see the purple color are Utica Point Pleasant completions. Just a few Marcellus completions last year. I think there were 7, and 2 horizontal Clinton wells were reported completion information. Vertical wells, we have Berea and shallower wells, the green, Devonian Shale, Big Lime, Clinton Medina, Point Pleasant, Trenton Black River, Knox unconformity, and you can see the vertical wells are scattered throughout the state with a little cluster of Clinton activity in Licking and Knox County in central Ohio. Class 2 injection wells, so these are the UIC program wells. These are the 3 completion reports that were received by the state of Ohio. Ohio Energy Operators there in western Ohio, Chesapeake, Appalachia in Tuscarawas, and American Energy Associates in Trumbull County were the 3 UIC well completion reports filed in 2016. So breaking down completions by month, again, the blue lines the blue is for horizontal wells and the orange is for vertical wells. So looking at the distribution of completion reports filed by month, obviously it looks like in the second half of the year there was a slight decrease in number of completion reports filed, which is reflecting the reduction in activity we saw over the last half of 2015 and the first half of 2016. And then in the last month of the year, we started to see some more completion reports coming in. Top 10 counties in 2016. This has changed a little bit since last year. The top county as far as number of completions this year was Belmont County. There are 110 horizontal completion reports and 10 vertical. Some of these vertical completion reports are probably pilot holes and other things like that that got in there for the horizontal wells, particularly in Belmont and Monroe counties. But Belmont's followed closely by Harrison County with 102, and Monroe with 87, and then Noble, Carroll, Guernsey, and the rest. Of all the counties that had completion reports, there were, of those top 10 accounted for most of the completion reports filed in the state. The other counties outside of those top 10, there were 75 completion reports. So here's a little graphical showing the completions by county, again showing Belmont and Harrison, Monroe, Noble, far leading all of the other counties in Ohio. Most active operators by number of wells drilled in 2016. Chesapeake was at the top of the list last year, and they are again this year. Even though their well count or their activity has gone down 30% over 2015, but they had 99 completion reports, followed by Ascent with 66, Antero with 64. So Ascent has really ramped up their activity. They had over 200% increase from 2015 to 2016. And then American Energy Corporation down there towards the bottom is newly active in the state. Atlas Noble is newly active, and XTO Energy had a pretty active year last year with 24 completion reports filed. And Eclipse is also ramped up quite a bit. Little shot of a drilling rig in eastern Ohio, showing some of our fractabulous industry, Rhonda. Most active operators by footage drilled. Chesapeake was at the top of this list. They drilled over 1.6 million feet of rock in 2016, and they are followed pretty closely by Antero, Gulfport, Ascent, and Eclipse. Chesapeake's footage has gone down 40% since last year. Antero Resources has gone up 25%. Gulfport stayed about the same. Ascent and Eclipse, XTO, and CNX have all increased their activity significantly. So these top 12 operators by footage drilled approximately 91% of the total footage drilled in 2016. Most active counties by wells, Belmont, Harrison, and Monroe, change over 2015. Belmont County had a 67% increase. Harrison stayed about the same, and Monroe County had a 64% increase. So the operators in Ohio reported completions in 36 of 89 Ohio counties versus 34 in 2015. These top 12 counties account for 90% of all wells completed in Ohio. Most active counties by footage, Belmont County, Harrison, and Monroe, again, are at the top of the list. Footage drilled in Belmont County was almost 2 million feet of rock. That increase was about 72% over 2015. Harrison, again, stayed about the same, and Monroe County increased about 68%. So this is due to the sort of interest in the drier gas areas in Belmont and Monroe County. Another interesting to note on here is Jefferson County had a huge increase. I think there was only one well completed last year in Jefferson County, and there's a huge increase in drilling in Jefferson County in 2016. Footage by year. I need to go back historically and see if 2016 are all-time records as far as footage drilled. I believe they probably are, but I need to look back at some of the old McCormick reports and see if I can find some of that old data. But in 2016, we drilled almost 8 million feet, 594 wells. The average footage per well was 14,206 feet per well. Take a look at the average IP. This is a kind of a crude number, but this is the average of all the completion report IPs filed, and you'll see since 2013 there's been a steady increase in reported IPs for gas and a slight decrease in the average IP for oil. We went from 279 barrels to 196 as an average oil IP. And the state of Ohio doesn't, that's liquids produced at the wellhead on the lease. So the 2015 to 16 average IP for gas is up about 12%, and the oil is down about 30%. Footage is up almost 15% over 2015. So change of owners, there were 1,694 transfers of wells in Ohio in 2016. No huge transactions occurred. The largest one was 270 wells. Last year and the year before, there were some pretty big transactions that dominated this. 2016, there wasn't a whole lot of selling and buying going on. Rice Energy wells, I like their well names, so I kept the slide in here from last year, but this is a beautiful lease road entrance. Top 12 counties by average IP. So what this is doing is taking all the completions reports filed for each county and tabulating or averaging the gas IP and the oil IP, and then calculating an average IP. And I used an oil-gas ratio of 20:1 to reflect the differences in pricing, not energy. So on this look, Harrison County leads with an average MCFE of 14 million, followed by Jefferson County, Guernsey County, Belmont, and Monroe. Top 12 operators by average IP. So these, again, are IPs reported to the state on the completion reports. Ascent, I believe, was at the top of the list last year, and they are again this year, with the MCFE calculated using the 20:1 ratio. Ascent's average well was almost 20 million, followed by Hess at almost 19, and then CNX at 18, Rex at 14.5, and Gulfport at 12. And this is a graphical presentation of that same information in that table, showing the top IP reporters for wells drilled in Ohio. So based on that list, this is ranked again from top to bottom, and I apologize for the legends not coming through on here. I'm not sure what happened, but this is the order of the producers. Ascent is red, and then as you go down that list, the colors get cooler. So the XTO wells at the bottom are the blue spots, mostly in Monroe County there, in eastern Monroe, and the Ascent wells are the red counties. And this is kind of an interesting presentation because while it's sorted by operator, it's also coded by color. And so things to look at here are disparities between the colors of wells that are drilled very closely to each other. So I'll let you guys look at that later online, but it's interesting to note, where the highest IPs are reported and comparing them to the operators near them as well, and what the differences are in the reported IPs. Ohio oil and gas production, go through a little summary here. This is a classic picture. Most people have it. It's over near Coshocton. American, can't see it, but it's American soil, American oil on that tank battery, and it's a great picture. Producing wells by year. Keep this tabulated going forward. ODNR has yet to release conventional production for 2016, so this is estimated based on what we've seen over the last couple years. We also do not have fourth quarter horizontal well production in yet for 2016, so there's a few estimates here that I'll make sure to talk about. Production summary. So this is crude oil, lease produced crude oil by year from 1990 to 2016. Key takeaways in here, our crude oil production peaked in 2015 at about 26 million barrels. 2016, we've had about a 20% decrease in crude oil production. Now that decrease is about 5 million barrels of oil, and interesting, if you look back historically, conventionally, the conventional wells in Ohio produced about 5 million barrels a year from 2002 to 2010, and then that number has begun to drop off a little bit. I estimated conventional production for 2016 because I didn't have the data, but I did it based on a relationship with the other years, and it's probably within 10%. Gas. This gas is a different story. Gas production has increased 44% over 2015. We produced 1.4 TCF of gas in 2016. Keep in mind the fourth quarter is estimated, but I think it's a pretty good guess based on what we've seen on the first 3 quarters. Conventional production, we've gone from the conventional wells have gone from in the early 2000s, 90 BCF a year, and my estimate is 2016 we'll see about 46 BCF from conventional wells. Another shot looking at historic Ohio oil production from 1886 to 2016. The information on the right there is hard to see because it's just occurred in the last couple of years, but it's interesting to put the development in the Utica Shale into perspective with what's been done historically in Ohio. So aging wells, I show this slide every year. I think it's interesting, but again, this is one that you can look at a little bit more later. But the key takeaway from here is that 54% of the producing wells in Ohio are between 25 and 40 years old. And so the bottom axis on this is well age, and the red and the green lines are average oil production for the producing wells by age of well. So we got a lot of conventional production yet to occur, and these wells are very long-lasting wells. So taking a look at Utica producing wells by operator, this is a slide showing the state of the Utica shale operations at the end of the year, and key in here is the Chesapeake wells in Carroll County, and then the large variety of operators that are currently drilling down in Belmont and Monroe, and then a sense new activity in Jefferson County, which is becoming pretty interesting based on the IPs that they are reporting. And then also down in Washington County, just north of Marietta, Protege Energy drilled a well down there that is sort of testing the southern limit of this. Utica gas production by quarter. So this is a look quarter over quarter of production, and slowing production growth began in the first quarter of 2016. Production is still increasing quarter over quarter, but there is a decrease in the rate of growth. Oil production, the peak oil production occurred in the fourth quarter of 2015, and since then we've dropped quarter over quarter. We dropped about 12% per quarter. From the second quarter to the third quarter, we dropped almost 20%, and I expect that to continue to go down as the operators continue to focus on the drier gas areas of the Utica. Wells online, pretty interesting. Since 2013, the rate of growth as far as the number of wells reported as producing Utica wells has remained fairly steady, with just a slight decrease in the last quarter of 2015. But we're still seeing additional wells coming online and production growth. We have 1,442 producing wells as of the third quarter 2016. One of the things that we've been doing as an outsider and looking at the production data for the Utica wells is trying to understand what the EURs, the estimated ultimate recovery for these wells, are in the Utica Shale. Tim Knobloch has assembled a phenomenal database with calculated EURs as well as stage information and completion information. One of the things that he's done is calculated an EUR per 1,000 foot for every horizontal well drilled in the Appalachian Basin, and even parts of the other areas in the east with horizontal well drilling. And so I took a subset of that data and made a kind of an interesting little presentation showing average EUR per 1,000 feet of lateral. And this is using a gas-oil ratio of 20 to 1. And the numbers shown on this graph are the number of EUR data points per township. So the grid is township-based, and you can see the warmer, hotter colors, the reds and oranges and yellows are the areas that have the higher EURs based on our simple curve fit to these data. And Jefferson County's newly reported wells. Not a whole lot of production up there yet, but the IP or the EURs look fairly good up there. So this is going to continue to develop and change every year, and so we'll keep an eye on this, and I'll present this again next year, and we'll see what's different. Class 2 injection wells is a number of wells in the state of Ohio that dispose of produced water. Injection volumes have been on a steady increase since 2011, where we did about 12.7 million barrels of injected brine. 2015, it peaked at 32 million barrels, and then so far in 2016, the operators have reported about 29.4 million barrels of oil injected into the wells in Ohio. The 2016 data is incomplete. ODNR is still working on compiling some of that information from their operators. So my expectation is that number is actually going to go up for 2016 a little bit. Top 12 injection wells by volume. The number one well in 2016 for volume was Redbird Development Well. The Redbird well in Washington County injected almost 2 million barrels of water, followed by the Environmental Energy Solutions in Muskingum County, Elkhead Oil and Gas in Tuscarawas, and Clearwater 3, 2 wells in Guernsey County, and the Mason Drilling Well all reported injection of over 1 million barrels. These top 12 wells accounted for 47% of the total water disposed of in Ohio in 2016. Thank you, everybody. It's been my pleasure to prepare this data and this report. I want to thank, again, the Ohio Oil and Gas Association, Bill Arnholt, Tim Knobloch, and Larry Wickstrom for helping proof and put together some of this data. And please let me know if you have any questions, and this presentation will be on OOGA's website probably tomorrow. So thank you very much.